for an original song.
So let me lower the music a little and grab the devs, who I'm sure totally won't regret coming onto my stream. Oh, it's okay, they can't get in any more trouble. And there we go. I actually have to pick this game up for Monochrome after this. Did it work? The call button work? There we go. Discord's just being Discord again. Welcome, Suzuka. Alright, turn the music off entirely. We're gonna see if he notices he's muted. I've noticed it's been lagging for about a day or so, so I'm not sure what's going on with Discord. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep. You live.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm really bad at computer stuff, which many of the bugs in the game should tip people off to. So.
Usually not good when a developer's bad at computer stuff, but then again, I'm good at breaking computer stuff and games.
That's why we have a guy in Singapore doing all of our coding, and I draw pretty pictures and then he makes them work. So.
I do love the art in the game.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a couple days of
I
self-doubt. Yes. So, yeah. Before we start, I will, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that will probably have questions and stuff. Wife Kay and I, we started the studio a couple years ago and just got our LLC filed a couple months ago. But we decided we don't really want to ever be involved in controversy stuff. So it's going well. It's going really well. And
it's always when you don't want it to happen is when it happens.
Yeah. So this kind of blew up out of nowhere. We weren't involved in much any part of it. I remember on the 31st seeing chat and in Nintendo Life's thread and was like, oh, okay, ignore that. And then IPad Studios brought some stuff to our attention, and then some other stuff came to our attention, and we were just kind of like, okay. So we made the decision to kind of stay out of it. So we don't really have much to comment on regarding the whole thing. It was a rough few days, a terrifying few days, and we're good. I'm an old school country boy, so I'm not like a puss and get afraid and be like, oh my god, I'm gonna get killed. But it is what it is. It was a rough situation, but so we'd like to have a fun night, especially because apparently this is just that kind of week, isn't it? And just
look, I've already given you boobs and adorable guinea pigs. That should be enough for you.
Yes, I think that's a good way to put things. So I want everybody to know, our company motto is escapism. We always want to be able to bring escapism to anybody from everywhere, whatever you believe, whatever you're from. That's what we believe. So you can always rest assured that we're never gonna involve ourselves in that kind of shit. So you can always just get a fun game from us. That's what we do. That's what I'm good at. So.
Well, if I can say one thing on the controversy before we move on to the game itself, it was stupid.
Sure.
As somebody that's had to deal with that, considering you know full well what I do. I'm sure Zombie, I don't know if you've watched a lot of my channel, but what Zombie has and has probably shown you, it's dumb, and stepping away and not commenting and stuff and letting your publisher take care of it was the smartest thing you honestly could have done, because they were looking for any reason to continue an attack on you. So I believe what you did was actually very smart.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my wife is the smart one. I guess I have a couple other things I should clarify before we dive into it, because there's a ton of strange rumors about who we are that I don't know where they came from. There is nobody. There's nobody who's trans on our team that I'm aware of. I mean, I guess Al, my coder, could be. He's never told me. But I'm
Ask him how he looks in a dress.
I actually don't know what he looks like at all, but I just imagine that because he's from Singapore, like he looks like some of the people that my wife knows from Hong Kong. So I'm kind of, so that's the other thing. My wife is the Hong Konger, and we did start going through the immigration process for America a couple years ago, and we are in the midst of that. That is for any Americans in the chat, that's a fucking can of worms. And good luck. If any of you have to do that or have gone through it, you have my emotional support, because holy shit, that has been an interesting situation or existence to go through this. But she's from Hong Kong. I'm just a white American, the average, milquetoast guy. So we're very normal people, and just it was a weird thing to see a lot of people be like, oh, the guy who draws this stuff, or the person who draws this stuff is a trans woman or a Asian woman, and I'm like, my wife does all the 3D, I do all the 2D and game design and writing, and she handles all the business end because she actually had a business degree, so we do all that kind of stuff. We work together. She sometimes helps with 2D, like texturing and sprites and stuff like that, but only when I really need like the extra hands. And now I'm learning 3D for our next game, so she still handles all the 3D though. She laughed at the bush I made today, and I was really depressed about it. So, so that's the
everyone learns
that's
somewhere.
The breakdown of our company. I hate to burst anybody's bubble who is trying to defend us by saying that there's the person who makes the stuff is a trans person or a woman. I am in fact a disgusting white male drawing big booby anime girls, so I apologize for that.
So I'm gonna say sorry for the first stream, because I had heard it was a woman, and I hadn't gotten you hadn't answered me yet, so I did say that just because I had kept hearing it, so I'm sorry if I continued to spread that. I just didn't know.
No, it's fine. I didn't know how to address it because I didn't want to be like... Well, again, we didn't want to get involved in any of the discussions. We were just kind of like, let's stay out of this. And I figured, coming on here would be a good time because you have a fairly good following that we seem to have many people in common on our Twitter followings. Because I know there's 1,000 people following you that following us. So... I was like, I don't know how to address this. What's the rundown for people saying you're something you're not? And it was a weird situation. So, especially because I know there's been interviews with me before around it. It just kind of got stuff got out of hand. And also I was doing my husbandly duty to listen to my wife and stay the hell off the computer for the past couple days. So it's been that. But yeah, we can continue. I think that kind of covers the stuff I did want to say right away.
That's fine. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but since you wanted to.
I felt maybe I'm dumb, but it kind of felt like the right.
No, it sounds like you really needed some way to get it out, and this is what this interview's for, is just for you to have some fun, say what you want. I don't care. You can just let the F word out if it makes you feel better. I felt bad when I saw what was happening to you, and I had already wanted to talk to you guys about an interview anyway, ever since I had seen the game and I had gotten to try it for a review, which took me forever due to backlog. But it's a good game, and it's kind of a shame this is happening when it should be getting a lot of praise.
I appreciate that. It was, we did have the really rough launch in September, and I guess that's one. And because I did promise my publisher we wouldn't talk too much about the stuff. There is this part of a rumor that we didn't sell well or something. We actually did pretty well on Steam off the bat, and even with our kind of stumble at the beginning, because what happened was we launched on August 20-something, 25th or 28th, I forget, and the first 2 or 3 days we were, or maybe first 24 hours actually, we were trending #1 on Steam, and it was really huge. It was really cool, really exciting, and we did pretty well right off the bat. And then some people kind of got the reviews started to come in. We had a lot of really good ones, and then all of a sudden, it had to be around 11 or midnight. All of a sudden, the bad ones came in, and there was some bugs and some issues that we had missed. One of them wasn't a bug. I just made a really dumb gameplay decision. And I made a few of those. Some of them we can't fix. Like they're just
Was it the puzzle?
It was well, I don't know how early you played it. If you played it before.
I've gotten as far as getting the sword, and then we're doing a bit more of it, I think, this weekend. But I will tell you the part I hate the most so far.
Sure, I bet I can guess, but I'll let you tell me, and I'll say.
Is it the maze?
No, actually, that's surprisingly no one's talked about that yet. So I kind of that was a fun puzzle that I did, but no, it was actually the walk. The walk was a really big problem, like getting the walk and melting the figure and stuff.
Really?
And the problem is the timer that we have is flag based, and there's some issues with it that we can't quite figure out because something if you're playing, like something can cause it to break, but we don't know how or what. It's extremely random. Like there's no way for us to really like address it other than removing the timer. But the problem is there's no way to remove the timer. Like that entire actual logic chain for that room on the second floor is so connected to so many other parts on the entire floor that I can't change anything at this point without like redoing that entire floor of the game, which would then affect other floors. So it's a big thing where I'm just like, well, people are really going to hate that part, and I've kind of accepted that and been like, okay, I know what not to do on our next title, and if I could fix it and change it, I would do so. But the other thing was on day one, I thought it would be really cool if when the ghost in the lobby is coming towards you in the elevator, you would have to like actually spam the interact button like you would in real life, like hoping the elevator moves faster by pressing it a bunch. And I was like, that's going to be so cool and immersive. And everyone hated it. And it's like that meme, everyone disliked that. So
I didn't have a problem with it.
Like I didn't because I knew what to do, so I was just kind of like I was like, yeah, this is easy. No one's gonna have fun. So we ended up taking that out in the first patch. Like we actually set it to affirm a short countdown where it's a different timer function than the other timer that's breaking. So we set it to a different animation timer, and then now it works 100% time. You literally can't get caught by the ghost as long as you interact with the elevator. So, and you don't run into the ghost yourself. So it was that kind of really effed up our first day. And then over time, like we dropped to like a 60% review score, and then it took us about a month, but then we got back up to 70%, and with like 91 reviews right before this whole controversy exploded, we were doing pretty well at like 74% or something. I checked every day, but it's kind of been hard to remember those things now. So we were doing pretty well, and we sold pretty well. We were able to pay off almost all of the debt that we had from developer stuff, and it was going pretty good. So it was kind of like this happening was, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go into that anymore. So,
well, I mean, you got your controversy out of the way, so the next game will be fine.
And hopefully better in terms of like initial things, because hopefully I won't make dumb mistakes again. But I'm prone to those, so because I like drawing pretty pictures, and I did work as a game designer and writer for a studio that works with Big Fish games for a long time. And was doing that, and that's what I learned. What I thought was I could take all these skill sets that I had and bring them over to a 2.5D side-scrolling thing, and it would kind of translate perfectly. But what I found was that it's obvious, and I should have thought about that more going in, was the audience of Big Fish games and the audience of Steam are extremely different. So things that kind of really do work on those older title like point and click adventures and Hoppa games are you have to kind of adjust them, because I noticed one of the big like review negatives we had was people found parts of the game very boring, and there's people that really like this type of game. It's kind of a niche audience, I guess. This old school point and click thing. So it's been a very interesting couple months, and now that we're getting this huge influx of
attention
views and attention, it's been very enlightening, and I'm hoping more people. So if there's anybody here that bought it just to support us, Kay and I really do greatly appreciate every single person that supported us financially and put your money where your mouth is. But please, if you bought it and haven't played it yet, whenever you get a chance, give it a play. Tell us what you think. Be honest, even if it's harsh, it's something you don't like, because we really do want to grow as a studio, and that's our biggest thing. Is I want to make the games that feel like AAA studios and studios that I want to make these games aren't making. I want to show you guys what I can do, and I want to get better. I want each successive game to be the next better game. And if this is Hideo Kojima making the Penguin game for Super Famicom, I think was that, and then I want my Snatcher to come eventually, if that makes sense.
Oh, I love Snatcher.
So, yeah, too. Like that was a huge inspiration for me going in years ago, and like when I got into game development and stuff like that in grade school and high school, and I was like, I want to do this, and I can't. I'll never be able to make my Snatcher if everybody's just like, game sucks, or hey, this game, love this game because this thing. So, I want to see what people actually have to say, and even if you're like, hey, I really hate the walk section, I totally get it. So
I didn't have a problem with it. I really didn't.
It's been a very mixed bag, and I think it is just because the timer breaks and people get confused and frustrated because and we can't like have a thing, a disclaimer at the beginning of the game that says, hey, the walk section could break, so just restart. So it's been a very mixed bag. There's a couple that are very mixed bags. Some of the puzzles, I guess some people just think very differently than what I'm used to dealing with, or what I was used to dealing with Hoppa games, and how I would look at the puzzle. And it's been really interesting to kind of like break that down and see which things work and which things don't. And we had a very limited QA in terms of like the amount of people. We tested for probably 60 days-ish, maybe longer, just playing it over and over and over again. But it's still like a closed loop. There's only a handful of people testing. You're all going to eventually know what to do, and you're going to miss all these little nuances and things. So next big game, we're definitely going to be investing in some QA, especially, depending on how big we get from here.
I'm sure the chat will tell you to invite me, since I kind of, Zombie can tell you, I have a magic ability to break games and find breaks.
I will definitely be actually reaching out to you, to Zombie, to pretty much all the people that have been really nice to us and behind the scenes and like reached out and stuff like that, because I see it as you guys enjoy the game, first of all, which I'm really happy about, and can't make someone who's really into FPSs all of a sudden, who's never played like a Hoppa game. You can't really get them to understand a point and click adventure or be like really excited by it, right? They might, it might happen, but it's going to be more rare. So it's kind of like noting that there's an audience of people that like what we do. Asking you guys to be harsh on things will probably suffice as good testing, and expanding that pool of people will always be good too.
I think with the Nintendo release, this seems like a perfect type of game for Switch, especially with the controls and stuff, because you can probably try to test a little different things with the puzzles and stuff. I think it'll find a much wider audience, because it seems like the Switch has a lot of those kind of games and stuff, from at least the reviews I've done. So I think it'll do really, really well. I'm not sure if it's actually out yet on Switch, so forgive me.
It's 5 hours. I shouldn't say that. I'm not positive exactly what time it goes live.
Did we time this perfectly?
Pretty much, yeah. That's actually one of the reasons I wanted to do Wednesday. I did want to kind of take yesterday and decompress a little bit, so I could be kind of more talkative, because it's. I will never make fun of somebody who kickstarts a game for kind of losing their mind. You see a lot of those guys like that, or people that they do Kickstarter, and you watch the slow descent into madness. I ended up, we dealt with some personal stuff and stressors and stuff like that. I ended up actually developing some mildly rough social anxiety. So I was having like a really hard time with talking and, being more social, and that kind of ended up being the reason why Kay and I decided to ignore and hide from controversy and just kind of make the game and be like, we just want to make people happy, enjoy our games, and I'm getting better. I've been working on it and really practicing talking to friends again and stuff like that. But So yeah, anybody don't make fun of people that lose their mind doing a Kickstarter. It's one thing if they're like a huge asshole, but it's gonna happen. I think you just like this weird thing happens where you, at least for me, the thing that got me was like knowing that we had almost 1,200 people back us on Kickstarter initially, and then we had some pretty good backer kit sales right off the bat, and I was like, holy shit, it's like 3,000 people that are gonna be really fucking mad at me if I mess anything up. And you kind of weigh on that a lot, and I'm a little bit of an anxious or kind of autistic person anyway, so I was like already, holy shit, this is going to be terrible. And then so every decision I made was always weighed against, is this going to work? Do we have the funds for this? X, Y, and Z. And yeah, I can imagine how somebody could go completely off the rails. Luckily I have a good support structure and my wife and stuff like that. So, and she handles half, if not all, of the business stuff for me. So, I can focus on the part I'm good at. So yeah, that was a weird 3 years. So I don't recommend it.
I can't blame you. I'm the head of the comic book that we do, which I'll send you after the stream. And there are times where I'm just like, all of you go away. Stop making me the boss.
It's right. Like it kind of, if you're just a creative person, it's doing the business end, you have to be that right kind of person. And I made I didn't know anything really about running a business. My mom ran businesses my entire life, or a business my entire life, and my dad is my dad is a administrator at a functional thingy. So I don't want to give too much family information. So I'm very familiar with the processes and things like that. And I could tell you, this is what my parents did, or I should have those kind of bases in my head. But for whatever reason, I'm just mentally or not emotionally, what would it be, intellectually?
Retarded?
I'm socially retarded for sure, but there's a part of my brain that does not function that way, and I kind of do a lot of old school 1920s hands shaky deal stuff, and it's probably not a smart choice. I would warn anybody against that. So, I would be like, yeah, let's be best friends and do this thing, and then I wouldn't handle it like a business sometimes. So I learned some mistakes from some mistakes. my wife got a little upset, and so it was but now I know a lot more stuff, and I think going into our new project, we've done a lot of talking, and I've been studying and watching business things on YouTube, how proper business etiquette and business planning and things like that. So it's been weird. I just want to make games.
I'm the same way with my videos and my comic. It's I just want to write, and then everyone's like, well, you need to figure out the printer, you need to do this and that, and then I'll get it printed and it'll be wrong, and everyone's like, well, you didn't do it right. No one told me. I just write things.
Actually, I'd like to ask you, because you do the comic books, how are you guys handling the COVID stuff and printing? Because printing in America is already ridiculously expensive. Because we're trying to do our art books, and we've been looking at printers all over the country.
We've just found a printer, and I can give you their thing. And we're actually using Patreon as a goal. One of the goals is if we reach a certain one, because our shop, Crowdmade, is actually going to carry it. We get it printed, we send it to them and stuff like that. And I can give you our printer that we're using. But basically, when the fans hit the goal, because it is really expensive, it's not a joke, then we'll order, I think we're shooting for about 200 of the first issue. And then it'll be for sale, and then everybody will get it, and we'll probably give away some that'll be signed and all that other stuff. But it's a slow process. I really don't want to push for physical issues, especially with COVID and everything, until at least our second issue, which is about 65 pages, is done.
Okay. Because we're doing our books, it's supposed to be a hardcover, and it's 50 pages, and I was like, oh man, that feels like a small book. But then when I looked at the price, it was like, holy shit. And we couldn't find there's one printer we could really find that seemed reliable in America, but we weren't looking at small printers. We were like, okay, because we're going to need a rather large order, and it's going to have to be shipped to this one place, to Top Hat's location, and there's all these things. So we started looking at because again, my wife being from Hong Kong, we do have some connections over there in like China and Hong Kong business area where we can kind of like message people and say and see what they can do. And even that, like just to jump for when we did our mouse pads, we did the booby mouse pads.
Oh, I missed my chance at one. Oh,
we still have a few. So if you're interested in getting one, we do have a couple left on our backer kit because we already ordered them and we had to put like a hard lock on our thing. So I don't know. They shouldn't have sold out within the last couple hours when I checked. So we should have a couple left.
but I wouldn't mind giving more support to the game.
We definitely appreciate it. So when we did those, COVID. See, we ordered those in like September, I think, and then Top Hat got them. And when we started looking at getting like our collector's edition boxes and stuff, just a peek behind the curtain for people listening, prices for that stuff, because we kind of like scouted them out prior, and then when we started looking again closer to or at the beginning of the year, prices like tripled. And not just shipping, like just manufacturing, pure manufacturing costs. It was really weird, and it hasn't really gone down. I would say that they're above double for most things we're looking at. Yeah, it's been weird. It was like this because I remember we were looking at it, and with Kay's family and friends and stuff, they were like everything's fine, and then they were like, oh yeah, we just got to do a lockdown for like 2 or 3 weeks and wear the masks, and then we were like, we should probably buy masks.
Yeah.
And we were like, we should probably buy stock in masks. So we didn't do the second part, but we did the first part. We bought a bunch. And then all the weird stuff happened. So luckily, I wasn't allowed to go outside for a year, and I had to finish the game. So we were just we were pretty insulated from all of it. But and I'm not a guy that goes out and does a lot of stuff anyway. Like, so we didn't miss much. But it's been really annoying to watch all like the manufacturing prices jump, and we can't be like, and also the times. Like, I don't know if you guys are having any issues with distribution, like times.
Yeah,
but we were having a hell of a time just even finding someone that can be like, yeah, we can get this to you in a month and guarantee that month. And luckily, the support has given us a little bit more money to work with and have a little more conversation room with the manufacturers. But not much. So we were like, okay, let's see what this does, and we're gonna hopefully get this stuff started, printed, and made to be sent out for the spring. So if any of our backers are in here, we're still looking at spring. We just don't know when, and that's just because COVID. Nobody will give us an answer. So
yeah, we went through 2 printers. One of them actually put up our stuff without even our permission, and won't take it down. They're like, oh, well, we only have like 1 person working, so we'll answer you eventually. So I went and put it like $100. I'm like, if anyone really wants it that bad, good luck. But it has been a nightmare. That's one of the reasons I'm kind of holding back, and I made it a Patreon goal for mine, for the comic at least, was just because like it is expensive right now. And the one I just gave you, they're a really good printer from everything I've heard, the people I've talked to and stuff, and I believe they do what's called print on demand, which means you don't have to order like 500 or 600. Your people can just order one and it'll be shipped to them, but I'm still looking into that myself. That's why I kind of haven't, and spoiler to everyone in the Patreon, just ignore this. That's kind of why I haven't gone ahead and done that yet, as I'm still in talks with them and stuff. But I'd be willing to help with what little I do know, and when I get more info, I can help you out. Great.
Yeah, like when we start actually, because I made the print file. I might actually ask you to show me what a proper print file looks like. I haven't done this since college, and that was like 12 years ago. So
that I can get my artist to help you with, because I am the writer. Okay. I used to be an artist, but that went away because of an accident, so I don't remember most of that stuff.
Stuff has gotten more complicated, because I'm not sure how old you are, and I don't want a young lady to tell her age on the stream, but the older I get, the worse the shit goes too. So I'm like, what do I do here? What was this? And then I find like old PSDs from college era, and I'm like, what was I doing? This isn't right. This doesn't make sense. But yeah. Well, let's. I guess let's move on to less businessy, boring shit. If anybody,
we do have some questions
about sense.
So let me grab some of the questions. First thing is, somebody did say they found a break. Somebody said they got locked out from the finger key puzzle. It worked after a reload, from another past save. It just wouldn't be added to my inventory, they said.
You couldn't pick up the lockpick, the finger-shaped lockpick.
Yeah, that's what they're saying they had an issue with.
Okay. Huh.
It was Nerd Wonder who said that. She's so happy.
Oh, Okay, Nerd Wonder. I think we're following each other on Twitter. Send me a DM. I think our DMs are open if I'm not following you. Send me a DM and we can take a look at that because that's the first time I've ever heard that one. So
she's actually also working on some artwork for our thumbnail for the for our series of the streams, and I'll send it to you after this so you can see it.
Yes, please. Yeah, that's the thing that I was actually kind of oddly most excited about with everything that's been going on is hopefully people make fan art, and if it's lewd, definitely don't do lewd fan art, guys. We totally don't want to see any of that. No one do it.
This is a good Christian channel.
We are a wholesome company putting our platform on Nintendo's or something. So
Nintendo full on loves uncensored stuff. I've done so many games that's uncensored on there. It's insane.
Don't you dare! Nobody send us any, especially anything that emphasizes May's or apparent parts. Don't do that. I don't want to see any of that. Okay?
No showing off her assets, guys.
Don't do it.
And certainly don't have one of our girls, shaking their assets with her or doing other things. Mm-hmm. That would be wrong.
Don't tag us in any of that. Show it to us ever. I can't retweet it if you do. We can't retweet it from the professional account, but I might from my personal account. So if that happens, but don't do it.
Be like the creator of Nier.
Yeah, I already have a folder. We've only gotten a couple, but I was really surprised. One person, I don't know their name, so I'm not going to shout them out. There was one that was really like over the top, and I was like, "Wow, you got that from May?" Okay, it was a pretty. It was unique. I was very interested in their take on and the adventure that May apparently had at a different time in the game. So,
well, I can tell you, I know for a fact there are some mature game developers who have picked up your game, so you'll probably see some fan art from them.
I hope so. I was very excited to see that. There's the few that I've seen, really cheered us up and was exciting to see. And we're working on the next stuff, we are also looking for people that can help us out with that in different respects, like 3D. So if there's any 3D character artists, we're definitely interested in talking to people. I have a guy that's like the dream guy. I don't remember his Twitter handle. It's like Izanagi or something like that.
He's your dream guy, but you can't remember his name. I see how that is.
I scroll through Twitter really fast and I see things and like them. So you're probably if you look through the likes on Sense, you're gonna see just a bunch of big booby anime girls and cool things like old PC Engine stuff. So I don't really pay much attention to the ats, which is I know probably a problem. But if anybody might know who I'm talking about, it's the guy who does the dancing animation with my Shiranui 2B and Tifa. He makes those 3D models, and he's really skilled. So I was like, oh, that's the perfect guy because it has the look that I want for our 3D stuff. And we're gonna reach out to him hopefully soon and see what it would take to get him on board for our next bigger project. But most likely 3D character art's expensive as hell from known artists. So we'll see. Maybe you guys will have something fun to ogle in 3D next time.
Sometimes you gotta pay for the goodness, especially when it's got jiggly.
Yeah, because the more jiggle bones they add, goes up $1,000 a piece. So
I think I did a minute or two in the game where I was running back and forth to show the jiggle physics, and everyone's like, "Oh, keep doing it." I'm like, "I see what you guys want."
We do have. Most people can probably tell it's 2D, the 2D bone style animation. We did actually have to code a a new jiggle physics for that. So her boobs are unique. We have an original jiggle physics script for our game.
That's a good way to market it.
I can make it go crazy, but it looked really, I wanted to have some amount of restraint this time. So
you got to add like an unlockable thing just so they can go absolutely nuts.
I have suggested that to the wife for not next game, but the one after that, which will be full 3D. And she rolled her eyes, sighed, and walked away, and did not answer. So I'm going to take it as a maybe. So, but I'm hoping the thing I do want to do, if we can get that working, is have the Dead or Alive 2 hardcore style slider where you input your age and it changes. So 99 is maximum and like 0 is minimum, no bounce. So I really want to do that because I feel like if we ask you your age at the beginning of the game, and people know what that does, it'll be kind of a fun little gag, and then they can turn down from the options. That's my goal. But again, we're very, very early phases of the next title. So
see, I miss when games would have that kind of fun thing like that, like the different colored blood and stuff like that. 'Cause we've been doing Silent Hill 4, and I love that you can change the blood color and stuff like that. And I know originally it was a censoring thing, that's why they did it, but it's still a fun, silly thing you can do, and stuff like that is great. Like somebody goes, 99 years old, moon tits!
Exactly, that's how it should be. But to actually bring up the blood, 0 ratings are really hard to get, surprisingly. So that was they don't like some stuff, and we had a hell of a time with that. It's only Japan, so it doesn't affect much, and we were kind of annoyed with some of it, but it is what it is. They're very picky over in Japan about even like the weirdest little things, and I'm actually not allowed to divulge like specifics. But yeah, they're really picky. So when you guys see like 0Z ratings, like why like the last Resident Evil 3 remake had a 0Z package just so they could have like blood and guts and like decapitation. I don't even think I'm wrong on that. They weren't allowed decapitations either. That's why even Japanese companies can't get away with almost anything. It's extremely strict. That's also why you see 90% of the games that are of any exciting value are 0D, even if it feels like it's like a kid's game, is primarily because their ratings board is ESRB on crack. They gave us the most. I'm not gonna say trouble because it's their rules, so I can't really do anything about it. But they gave us the most stuff, most feedback, and it was And the worst part is like every time you submit, you have to re-record all of the footage. So on the 1,000 times I've already played the game, we would get like 3 months would go by, and they'd be like, "Hey, here's your feedback," and then I would have to play the entire game all over again, fully recording everything. So that was an exhausting process.
That's insane.
Sorry?
That's absolutely insane. Did they at least tell you what needed to be changed in things? Or are they doing like what YouTube and Pornhub does where they're like, here's a vague answer, good luck?
So I get everything secondhand through the publisher, and some of it was pretty specific. East Asia stuff I think helped us with some of that and was like, hey, this is the problem. But I never get stuff directly. I just get told what to do, which is fine. Keeps me from screaming at a piece of paper or email. So I kind of knew certain things, but that's why, because it might even be a thing similar to like American companies where like whoever's looking at it that day has a different opinion than the guy the next time, right? So it was a very difficult process to get 0. I don't know if we got it yet. I know we resubmitted right before the holidays, so I think we're still waiting on 0. But that doesn't affect our launches for anywhere else. It's just Japan we're waiting on. And I think Korea has a similar structure to that, and we've been examining Korea, but haven't done much with it yet. So, yeah. 0's rough, guys. If you think ESRB has its own issues, but they were actually really easy. We submitted, and then they were like, submitted through the thing. It's like an organization or something, and it gave us like everybody all at the same time, which is weird because we passed like right away. They were just like, yeah, whatever.
It's an indie, they're fine.
Yeah, they're like, who cares? But we were worried about some stuff. Like I know the stripper at the very beginning of the game. I was like, the heart-shaped pasties on her bits is going to be a problem, or I was sweating a little bit, and then like as soon as I got back to me, they were like, yeah, you're fine. I was like, oh, okay. And then I assumed we were just going to be good, but then Zero I think we've submitted I think this past time might have been the 4th or 5th time. I can't remember.
Jeez.
So.
Well, hopefully you guys have some luck with this time around, because I would go insane if I had to deal with that. And I've had to deal with publishers, and some of the stuff they complain about, it's like, people are insane.
Well, I see Devil King saying you had a high. I still have a very high opinion of Japan. I've been there several times. Still love it, and I would still honestly much rather be dealing almost specifically with the Japanese market. To be honest, it's a lot easier seemingly to navigate. Actually, maybe the Asia market, and I don't know how much of it is because of the help of East Asia Soft specifically, like, helping us kind of manage all that stuff. And because I'm not involved with that end of the porting or that process, because that's all Top Hat and East Asia Soft working together. But my understanding is that they've made that process very simple and easy to read. So it seems to me though that the Asia market's actually very open too. So maybe they're good. Maybe like I think Asia covers Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan. I'm not sure which other countries, but I'm fairly certain those 3 at least. So that's a really good market. they're very easy. In my couple times I've been to Hong Kong, their shelves have a lot more interesting stuff on it and it's their gaming market in Hong Kong is really cool. Like just imagine like a big 1-floor mall, but it's like open air, and there's just a bunch of like stands, and then people just screaming at each other. It's really good.
I want to see that. That sounds like it'd be fun.
It's really fun. And they have good taste over there. So yeah, I'd probably be excited to work with Asian market, and we were leaning on that anyway. That's kind of another thing that people were saying a lot was whether or not we were a Hong Kong or a Chinese studio or an American studio. We consider ourselves a Hong Kong American studio. We really want to focus on Cantonese culture and stuff. And Japanese, because we're both a little bit of weeby, a little weeby, and we really want to focus on putting like something different on the market. So we consider ourselves a Hong Kong American developer. We're American for legal purposes and the fact that we live here and and filed our LLC here, but culturally we're kind of in this weird mix. We want to make sure we get both ends of it.
We were trying to figure it out. I don't know if you've seen the streams we've been doing of it. Me and my co-host Aurora, we were trying to figure it out because he's from Singapore or Malaysia, and he was thinking that you guys were from Hong Kong just by how much you know and stuff like that. So you've answered basically the big question he had. Was he's probably not going to believe that you guys are an American company.
Well, my wife was born and raised. She's Cantonese. She's born and raised Hong Kong. So we were making sure that everything is like accurate. Like even though the game, I don't want to spoil that, but anybody who's played it will kind of get where Sense actually takes place, and where Neo Hong Kong is within that world. But we still wanted it to feel extremely authentic, so that people that know where the game takes place in our world be like, oh shit, I understand where that is. I know this place. And then people who are Cantonese or Hong Kongers or have been to Hong Kong will feel very at home and know what they're looking at. And I think that took us a lot of work. It took us a long time to make sure those things were correct. And then, my wife was constantly correcting things and researching things, especially all the Taoism. The Taoism stuff, I have to say this part very carefully and diplomatically. A lot of the Cantonese Hong Kong culture is dying, like the traditional culture. So some of that stuff is very lost. A lot of the Taoism and the Taoism exorcism, the Dao Shi stuff is very difficult. It's almost impossible to find in English, first of all. And then when you do find it in English, you kind of get this weird like yoga hippie version that isn't accurate almost at all. They're like taking bits and pieces. So my reliance was almost entirely on old the like Mr. Vampire movies from Hong Kong from the 80s and 70s, and like trying to understand what they're saying in those movies. And I don't mean language wise, I mean like translate the idea into English where it makes sense in English, because they'll say something like, you know, they'll say some incantation, and in Cantonese it works. The Cantonese people will be like, oh yeah, okay, totally. And an American would be like, that's really weird sounding. So translating all of that, and then having my wife help me, that it took a long time to get all of the cultural stuff as accurate as we could possibly get it. And, you know, being half Hong Kongese, half Cantonese as a developer really helps. So, and by half, I mean me and my wife, not her or me. So.
Are you going to continue using that stuff in the upcoming games? Because I'm going to be honest, I actually really enjoyed that, and it was fun watching like my co-host. So we're basically the same. We were doing the same thing where we have somebody from that area and then an American. There was a few things where he was like, you know, that translation isn't exactly right, and he was actually explaining like what they don't usually use and things like that. So it is really interesting to get to see that stuff, especially knowing that you guys kind of know what you're talking about. Whereas I've seen devs who do that kind of thing because they're like, oh, I'm a big fanboy.
Because I'm happy to admit I guess weeb isn't the right term, even though it's probably fair. I'm kind of a Japanophile. Like, I'm really big into ancient Japanese culture, specifically Heian era history and culture. I'm kind of into the Meiji Revolution and stuff too, but really into yokai and ancient Japanese. So I've always been like really deep into that stuff, and it was one of the things that when I met my wife and we started hanging out, and I was very excited because I loved Hong Kong action movies, but I didn't know much about the culture. I just thought, you know, it's China, it's the same thing. Oh. And realizing that if you say that to a Hong Konger, they'll probably kill you. And she ended up marrying you. Yeah, she learnt me good. And when I went to Hong Kong the first time, seeing what it is, like how it's so unique and so beautiful and such an amazing, awesome territory. I have to say that carefully. I don't want you to get around it.
Dance harder.
So you know, it's an amazing, awesome place. Place that there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world, and it's something I wanted to share with the world as best as I could, through my eyes. So some of the things that are not accurate, like basically everything that isn't totally accurate, we kind of knew. We were like, yeah, we need to change this, because there's certain things where you want it to look cooler, you know, or you want it to have that kind of like. The funny thing is with like the old Mr. Vampire Dao Shi movies, even they're like bullshitting a lot, you know. But it's because it needs to look cool, or it has to be exciting. It has to be this like, you know, darker, more evil. Like the best example I can give you is there's a really amazing horror movie, but kind of amazing for good reasons and bad. It's like a bad horror movie, but it's really good. It's just called Black Magic, and it's a Hong Kong movie. I don't quote me on the year, but I want to say 1989. And it has a lot of accurate Dao Shi magic and Taoist magic and stuff in there, but it's also just filled with visual bullshit, like things that they've added or made big just to make it crazy. And I kind of wanted to pull a lot from that too. So we got the culture stuff, or we felt it was really important to make sure it was 100% accurate. We also wanted to exaggerate in places where we were like, we want people, even people from Hong Kong, to play this and be like, this reminds me of that movie, or have that feeling. And I will also say that the people that translated our Mandarin had a harder time, I'm guessing, than we thought. So I know our Mandarin's is a little rough, but my wife worked through the Cantonese herself and checked a lot of it. And so the Cantonese is good. We were very one of the first things we set out to do was make sure that the Cantonese representation was there. This is a game that is a love letter to Hong Kong. So anyone from Hong Kong, we hope you felt that.
And we noticed that with some of the Chinese things. I mean, what? No. Game's a good boy.
please be careful. Especially
We'd like you to live longer than a week. It's okay. I actually, like I said, I really enjoy the game. I really enjoy the game, and anything that scares my co-host Aurora, you're doing something right. Because it's rare to hear him go "aye" so many times in a game.
And that makes to see people say that ghosts are scary, because one thing that worried my wife a lot was she was like, are you striking the balance of too sexy and too scary, like, because it has to be a horror game first, right? And I fully admit that what do they say, like, you're horny on main? I'm not good at the kid lingo anymore, but like, kind of let my dick run the show a little bit on the character designs sometimes. So I was kind of like excited to know that people really thought that the ghosts were scary, and I was like, is it gonna be enough? Because we did go for a very Asian take and trying to keep things very grounded with a couple exceptions where I wanted to like exaggerate a little bit more, and there were things that I cut out and didn't have time to do that I was like really excited about, so I'm saving those for another game. But I'm really glad to know people, you specifically, were enjoying the ghosts, because that was the most important part, and I felt like it got lost, especially the last couple days, that it's a horror game. So,
well, I do adult games, mostly on the channel, but on the main channel and everything. But my love is horror. My comics horror. I enjoy horror, so especially Asian horror, because I kind of grew up with that, and I think the game did a really good job. There is one ghost I can't figure out if he's actually supposed to hurt you or if I completely bugged him out though.
Which one? Because
the one where you have to return the body parts, the tongue, the ears,
okay.
all that. He wouldn't hurt me. We walked right into him, and he was being a very special boy. He was very special. The student.
Avoid spoilers. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but he does not hurt you.
Okay. I was wondering if we had broken.
He kind of stays away from you, and if you. This is probably a slight failure of my storytelling, but if you see his cutscenes and then his like the notes in his room, the bookshelf kind of things, it should explain he stays away from you. And it's kind of a thing where I wanted each ghost, like, so the core idea, and this isn't a spoiler, is that all of the ghosts in the place are twisted by specific entity that's also in the building and made to be the way that entity saw them when they were alive. Like their monstrous form is like an exaggeration of the way she saw them as people, like psychologically. So I tried to do that as much as possible, and really like hammer on that with each design, and worked really hard to kind of strike a good balance of. I didn't want anything to look too much like a zombie, but I also wanted it to be scary for both Asian audiences and American audiences. And American audiences are way more. I guess you could say like addicted to the gory end in the like monstrous zombie end of horror when it comes to ghost stuff. Like you can't have you can't just have Sadako, and she can't just be like a pretty attractive Asian woman with her hair in her face. It has to be Samara, and she has to be a little girl that's like covered in dirt and grime, and like her face is like melting off. Like it can't just be what it is, And to the same degree, like my favorite Asian horror film of all time is the original Ju-on, and Kayako in the original one is pretty tame compared to later, but I think the American Grudge did a really, really good job of just like whiting her out and making her, giving the good makeup and effect. Of all of the Asian horror movies that got translated to American horror movies, that was the best one in my opinion. But if you notice, like that same era, like they just consistently and constantly tried to make them way gorier and like scarier and visceral. And I think that works for some people. For me, I really like the old school, slow paced thing where you're looking at the best example. Sorry to kind of like spaz out a little bit. The best example is Pulse, Kairo Pulse. The ghost reveal in the movie Kairo, the original Japanese, which got remade into Pulse, and of course what they do, they had a bunch of really scary ghosts, like monster things. But just this woman walking down the hallway, she has this part where she like trips and it's like semi slow motion. And for whatever reason, that's like the scariest fucking ghost on film to me. That was just such a creepy, really heavy moment of like seeing this woman in really slow motion just kind of walk towards the guy, and he's like freaking the fuck out, and he falls over the couch. So if anybody ever needs a horror movie to watch, go watch Kaido. It's amazing. It's very slow. So if you're expecting, I don't know, like what was the one where the kid has like he wanders around when he's asleep kind of thing? There's like a really huge American horror movie. From
is it Sixth Sense? No.
Well, the Sixth Sense is pretty good. That's not. It was.
No, I'm trying to think of the one you're talking about.
You know, like it's the same guy who did The Conjuring. Which Conjuring was okay.
Oh, Insidious? Was it Insidious?
Insidious, yes. Like Insidious is fine, right? But it's its own audience, and to me, I was like, Aido, my all-time favorite, like probably one of my favorite movies of all time ever is Yotsuya Kaidan, and has multiple versions, and there's many remakes of that same story. And if when you beat the game, we actually have an entire section that explains is my love letter to Yotsuya Kaidan, and it ties into Mei's history and backstory. So if you've ever seen it, maybe go watch that before you play the Yotsuya Kaidan chapter, because you'll be like, oh shit, okay. Watch any of them. They're all really good. My favorite one is probably Crest of Betrayal, which came out in '87. Maybe wrong on that day. But there's also ones from like the 60s that are really good. They're all very, very good. But there was just this way that they told horror and paced and shot and did all these things in Japanese cinema. And Hong Kong cinema did it for a while too, like in the 80s and early 90s. Probably up until the year 2000, maybe there was some pretty good ones, and then all of a sudden, everything Hong Kong cinema disappeared in like 2002. It just died, just out the window, and I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but
well, what you like is the same thing as me. It's not really it is horror, but it's considered terror, where it's the build up and the psychological part, which I believe works better. Like I'm trying to do that with the comic too. It's not easy to do like a kind of a build up where it's a slow moving one. And I think a lot of movies, especially American ones, have lost that. Like we were watching the original Godzilla, and it was fun in the cast, with the fans that haven't seen it, because they were like, "Oh, this is dumb. Where's the monster?" And then a few minutes later, they're like, "This is actually scary." And you're only seeing, let's face it, a hand puppet of a shadow in the background. You're building up to it, and they don't have to show it right away. I kind of missed when we had that, especially with, like you said, a lot of Japanese horror and stuff love to do that, where they slowly build into the things that are going to happen. So you're more paranoid because you know it's there, but you don't see it. It's your instincts. Your basically your primal brain going, oh crap, there's something there, there's something there, why can't I see it? Type of thing.
And I think that is, that's the hardest thing in the world to do anyway, because I've written comic books and stuff like that beforehand, and writing the Hoppa games, but since Hoppa games kind of structurally feel and flow more like a book than a game itself, because it's a lot more reading and clicking, having a fully interactive game like Sense, it was the hardest thing for me to do, other than just like the work of making the whole thing, but like the specific part, because at some point, like people are going to want to see a ghost, and like one of the big complaints we have right now is that the first 30 minutes of Sense apparently is really boring, because you don't see the ghost until you close the door. And well, you can. We have an option for you to be able to like get a peek of the ghost before you go up the stairs into the lobby. But like once you close the door into the office,
I think we stumbled into the ghost.
Like the peaks. There's no like active chase until the lobby, right? So it was like it's really difficult to get that working, and I didn't like doing that so fast. My original like kind of thing was we did that for the Kickstarter demo just to kind of get people in the zone of like what the game is going to be. So we have a vertical slice, and I was originally planning to like scrap having Ed, the first ghost, in the lobby at all, and then let people get into his apartment before shit starts to go crazy. And we were going to have more of like little tells and little spooks. So I have two delineations for how I scared the player. I call them spooks, which is like little tiny things, and scares, which is like ghosts showing up or big cutscene or something like that. So I had all these little spooks planned out, and then I was testing it myself, and I was like, this could be really boring to a lot of people, because you're just, figuring out, okay, I'm stuck in this building, and then you get all the way up to the second floor, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can die at the electricity puddle. And then by the time you get into his apartment, it could be like 30 to 40 minutes into the game. And I was like, nobody's going to like that. Resident Evil 1 did a really good job, like the classic PS1 and the remake as well. Like, you get your first zombie showing up in, 5 minutes of gameplay? Something like that, like depending on how quickly you run. So I wanted to try to tease that out, and I still think Fatal Frame 2.
Oh,
Fatal Frame
yes.
3 specifically. Fatal Frame is my favorite horror game series. Tied with Dead or Alive for my favorite video game series. So I'm very. I looked a lot at how Fatal Frame structured things, and I was like, okay, I guess we can have the ghost here show up, and let it be a chase where you're still helpless. And I'm reanalyzing that. So if anybody in the chat has thoughts, please go to our Twitter and tell us, give us some examples of what you think works really well in a video game, like for first scare, because I am working really hard on this next title and our third. To explain, we're doing a small game and a big game, and the big game will be out hopefully within this year, and the small game will be out hopefully soon. Very, very short, like 5 to probably 10 to 20 minutes of gameplay, like a little quick thing that I just got really frustrated and bored waiting for ports to get done and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to make something. So I'm trying really hard to make that pacing much better and let that tension and that, like you said, the primal fear build up, and we'll see how that goes. So if anybody has any suggestions, we're very, very open to that on Twitter.
Well, for me, Sense actually reminds me, I don't know, but you have played Silent Hill, because I saw Robbie the Rabbit, because I even made a joke. I'm like, it looks like Robbie the Rabbit, and then it reminds me especially of Silent Hill 2, how a lot of it is build up where you learn about the characters and things like that. And I like that, especially with the ghosts, because a lot of the ghosts, as we're playing it and stuff, you feel bad for a lot of them.
And I really appreciate you bringing Silent Hill 2 up. I really love the story and the atmosphere and the pacing, but I cannot play that game. I've beaten it twice. I can never do it again because I get really frustrated with the combat of it. And that was what I was really hoping somebody would kind of get, is that I was trying to pull the elements that people always talk about. When with all the Silent Hill fans and stuff, and they make these long videos about the lore and the world and this completely just skeptical opinion on what the town is. They're amazing videos and they're really fun to listen to and watch. But the second anyone talks about the combat or the gameplay, they're like, yeah, it's fine, serviceable. It's a means to an end of the story.
No, watch my streams of any of my stuff. Silent Hill 4, like I said, we've been doing. I don't shut up about how much I hate that game's controls and combat and stuff. And I love Silent Hill. Don't get me wrong. I am a diehard fan. Right. They've never really been good with combat.
It's the thing that frustrated me the most and pulls me out of the game, because I'm sitting there getting so immersed. And I grew up in southern Pennsylvania, very close to Centralia. My parents live very close to Centralia, so I've been there a couple times. So even having that little connection of when I think it was the director of the movie suggested that Centralia was the thing and was the access point. So for people around southern Pennsylvania, it just becomes we live near Silent Hill. So anyone who wants to argue about it being like Chicago or some shit.
It's Toluca Lake, I thought, was supposed to be more north, they said. I know the movie is Centralia, but the games themselves are up more north, I thought.
So yeah, it's supposed to be Maine or something like that, I think is what the writer said at one point. It's supposed to be very northern America. But yeah, if you talk to anybody from southern Pennsylvania who's a fan of the series, they're like, no, Centralia. It's totally the movie guy didn't say that. It's totally the thing. So, but it is eerie. It was an eerie. I mean, most of it's gone. I've only been there once when there was still one building standing outside of the church and the fire department building, I think. But there was one little house and it was all torn down and stuff. It was pretty cool. And I think now it's just completely, disappeared. But the seeing the road was pretty cool. Anyway, but yeah, the point was Silent Hill is a really huge inspiration, and I spent a lot of time listening to the soundtrack while I was working on writing and stuff, and trying to make sure I tried really hard to get that feel, knowing full well I wouldn't be able to touch that level of quality, but I was going to try. I swung as hard as I could for it. So knowing somebody kind of got that vibe, it makes me very happy.
I think you
Fatal
did a really
Frame
good
is
job.
cool.
I've done many games, both indie and AAA, that have tried to do the Silent Hill thing, and they miss because it's more about jump scares. They use jump scares and da-da-da, when Silent Hill was always a build and the backstory and being left wondering, what actually happened. Did the person deserve this? Things like that. And it's always one of those things that I've seen games hit and miss, but I think your game got very close to it. Whereas I think if you guys ever did something with that kind of a world shift more, more into that, then you'd probably nail that completely with a bigger budget and things like that. In fact, I'd love to see you guys try to do like a Fatal Frame style game. I think that would be a lot of fun too.
Well, I guess you've been so nice, I can give you kind of an exclusive. So I've said this before in interviews or part of this, but I can divulge a little bit more on what I plan now that we've have more eyes on us, and hopefully this means more people will support us and like help us grow to the point that we need. So Silent Hill Sense is meant to be a trilogy, and what I want is each story to take some part of the Mock family curse and explain piece of it. So the first one was setting up May, the central protagonist, but not necessarily the player character of all three, May and her sister Maiko. And the idea is to kind of set up the cultural world that we're building, the world itself around, and kind of get people involved. Because when we did the first Kickstarter that we failed in October of 2017, I knew when I started building out the game, I was like, the only way I can make the game that's in my head is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we put it in there as kind of like not a gag, but like a, hey, if we hit it, we hit it, And it was like $200,000 to make like a full 3D game. Knowing now what I know about developing this by myself effectively with just my coder and my wife and our audio guy doing the soundtrack, the 60,000 was technically not enough. I mean, that was a very small amount of money to develop what we tried to develop. Did it work? And probably spent money that we could have spent less on certain things, but we're learning all this process on this end ourselves. So what I want to do is Sense 2 will take place on place that makes sense for one side of May's family, and then Sense 3 will take place on the second place, and it will be a couple years between each one. So you'll see the characters kind of grow, and I've written out the entire story, like the core idea and where they're going to go and why. And what we want is for Sense 2 to be roughly in scope with Fatal Frame 5 on the Wii U. Like, I think that scale was really powerful and strong. I love the idea that I know not everyone loves Fatal Frame 5. For a lot of reasons, it's my favorite, but Fatal Frame 3 is the best in my opinion. So
I like the demo. I didn't get to actually play the full thing because I was hoping for a physical edition.
I had the same. I have multiple copies of every Fatal Frame except for 5. I could only get the Japanese physical copy, and I did buy the English download version for the American server because I was like, well, I want to support them and let them know that I want this, but I was really upset with how they released it. And I'm friends with some people at Tecmo Koei, and I'm friends with some of the people at Team Ninja. And I let them know I was
Tell
not
them
happy.
we want it re-released on the Switch.
Unfortunately I don't know anybody on the Fatal Frame team. I'm fairly good friends with someone at high up in Team Ninja, and have known many of those people for a long time, and was very disappointed. And they know how I feel about it, and maybe for that reason they haven't introduced me to anybody on the Fatal Frame team. But yeah, they know. From my understanding, they know, and I think I don't know anything about what they're making, but I have a good feeling. I have a good feeling that this is going to be a year where they, and I guess the director of the series did kind of just put a little tweet out or whatever for the holidays, like, he
need
wants
his
to
Twitter.
do it. I don't know his Twitter. I saw it in I think Niche Gamer covered like how every studio puts out like a holiday message kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think he mentioned something about wanting to do like hoping that this year, because this is the 20th anniversary, right? Yeah, 20th. So we might get a Fatal Frame this year, and I wouldn't be shocked. I know from what I know, Quoa is lining. They're getting their stuff together. I think as I am the world's biggest Team Ninja fan, and I'm just going to throw that out there, and no one can question it. So it is. I think it's going to be a good, exciting year for fans of them. Except if you're a fan of Dead or Alive, I wouldn't. Don't get your hopes up for Dead or Alive. I have no more hope for Dead or Alive at the moment. So
it is a shame. I do hope we get. I think with the way the Switch is going and being more adult orientated, I think we can get a Fatal Frame, and I think they can do even more with that than what they would have ever done working under Sony with what Sony's doing now.
Well, and I agree. I really think strong, because there was a time when I was like, oh man, Fatal Frame, whatever, the next Fatal Frame, I want it to be on all consoles and like crazy graphics. And the Fatal Frame team did do a PlayStation game. They did a PSVR game. It was technically an arcade game that they ported to PSVR. But
really,
if you haven't, yes, and it's a VR gimmicky game, right? But it's really
you'll have to give me the name of it, because I've got a PlayStation VR and I'd kill to stream that.
You'll have to get a Japanese account, because they did not, to my knowledge, release it.
I already have one.
So it's called, and this was a happy accident. I don't think they did this on purpose, and I don't think they knew or gave a shit about Sense outside of my friend at Team Ninja. But it's called Horror Sense VR. So it was a little like when they put that out, I started sweating a little bit. I was like, oh shit. So it's very good, and it's a very like. It's the character designer and the character modelers from Team Ninja doing it, and it looks beautiful and it's fun. It's really creepy. It is not a Fatal Frame game, but it's the same team, and you get that feel from them, and it's a really good horror. I really liked it. Maybe you can probably get like 20 minutes to an hour of playtime out of it, maybe. I've replayed it multiple times, so it's pretty fun if you have PSVR. I recommend everybody get a Japanese account and go buy it, and then tell them I sent you.
I'll definitely look at picking it up for a stream, because anything horror, especially from them, I want to try. I never even knew that existed, and now I'm a little hyped.
It flew under the radar, and I don't get super like excited. There's some lore. There's a really cool little story, and if you're gonna have to have someone who knows Japanese, because there's some. It's Japanese, it's very Japanese. But the gist of the gameplay is very simple, and you can probably piece together what happened in the story basically, just by like what's happening on screen kind of thing. But oh man, it's fun. So I highly recommend it. So it's Horror Sense VR. I shouldn't be plugging a billion-dollar company's game over mine, but when you buy Sense for PC or Switch tomorrow. If you have money left over, do Horror Sense VR. I think it's like $5, so shouldn't be too bad. I might be wrong on the price, but if I remember correctly, it's about 500 yen.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, I'm probably gonna pick it up. So you guys will probably get a stream of that soon. So get excited. The VR will get dusted off. And you guys, as long as there's no heights, you guys won't hear me scream. Sorry.
As long as there's no what?
Heights.
I don't think so. I think it's it's all in a corridor. There's one little gag with like an endless void thing. I don't know if that bugs you, but
we'll find out.
It's good. It's fun.
As long as I don't have to, because the last time we did a VR thing, it loaded right in on the edge of a building, and I have a fear of heights because I was pushed off a 3-story building. So that was a fun moment, because my friend that was here was like, "Okay, we're taking that off your head," because he saw it on the screen, and he knew what was going to happen. But let's answer some questions. We have a lot of people asking you questions. So our first question is from Zero Matt. Is there going to be a collector's edition or a physical edition of Sense?
I need to be pretty careful with this. We did have physical editions available through our Kickstarter and backer kit, but we actually did have to close those pre-orders down. A few months back, because like logistically we have to have the orders set kind of thing, and East Asia Soft had to have like an exact number at a certain point. So what I can say is that because we are partnering with East Asia Soft and Play Asia, I would highly recommend everybody follow their Twitter along with ours, because and Top Hats. We'll want to follow all three of those Twitters in the near future. Definitely, that's what I can say.
Collector's Edition.
Collector's Editions, on the other hand, I'm not involved in any of that discussion process between Top Hat and East Asia. I know that the Play Asia releases tend to get their own like special collector's edition things, and if they are doing that, it is going to be completely different than the collector's edition that or at least very different from the collector's edition that we do. I'm not involved in that discussion. That is the publisher's deal. So they may have one, and I don't want to, if they do a physical, they may have one. But we do. I don't remember if we closed those or not, but let me double check. Let me pull up a window. Hold on.
You're gonna have to send me the thing later for the mouse pad, because I need a new one.
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you what to do. If you can tell your or your Discord that we do have the CE, if we have it, I'll look on a little bit later, because I'm a little worried to open more tabs or open a tab during this, because we have I have a shit computer. So the good news of the controversy is that I'll be able to afford to buy my wife and I new computers. So we have a silver lining here. So I'll be able to actually do more than one thing at a time soon. So I do see one question I want to answer really quick. Utatane Pico. Will Sense ever be available on a proper console? Yes. It comes to Switch tomorrow, the 7th. I don't know if it's active right at midnight, but it will be. If it's not active by noon, I'd be shocked. So I don't know. I wasn't told what exact time, but I'm assuming midnight, because I know some people do like the stay up all night and download the game as soon as it's available thing. And then Sony consoles, PS Vita and PS4, we have passed certification. We've passed QA. We are waiting on a release date, because we're trying to do simultaneous release for Vita and PS4. So for reasons. So that we don't know, because Sony, to my understanding, has not gotten back to us with an approval on a release date. So we should have one soon. I just don't know when.
All right, so Utanati also asked, how hard was it to get started on learning to code?
So hard that in 2017 I gave up and hired a coder. I am not a mathematical learner. And it was I don't want to discourage anyone from doing it. I think actually to encourage you. Now, once things with Sense are kind of more finished, I do plan on taking courses and learning myself, because it's very frustrating, extremely frustrating to be in my position where I'm the game designer, I'm the director, and I can't code, I can't fix things. So, I'd have to talk to my coder who's in Singapore, and then talk to Top Hat Scott. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so I won't. The Top Hat guy, and be like, I need help with this, or something's broken, and Top Hat guy would come to me and say, hey, this is broken, can you fix it? And I'd be like, I have to wait for my coder, who's, and he's 13 hours ahead of us. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in game design, learn it. It's very worth it. We just had no bandwidth and time for me to learn it over the last couple of years. So now that I have time, I'm going to be learning it, and it's hard, but maybe not for you. I'm just not. My brain doesn't work that kind of way, even though I feel like it should, but it doesn't. So good luck. And I know there's tons of resources. I started paying attention to Bracky's tutorials pretty recently. I think he does a pretty good job of at least telling you what to do, and if it might be like learning a language, like an actual spoken language, where you might not know why this thing does it, but it does it. So if you do that again in this other way and connect it to this other thing, it works. And another thing to consider is both Unity and Unreal use that web-based, and I mean like spider web-based programming thing. I forget what it's called. Nodes, I think. And it's much easier now than even a couple years ago when I started. So, I highly recommend it.
Now, is Sense actually made in Unity or Unreal?
Unity.
I was right.
We experimented with Unreal at first, and Unreal is too. And I thought I was going to be able to make a bigger like 3D game at first. I was like, oh, okay, we'll start Unreal. And I started a project and I looked around and went, oh my God. And then I looked on YouTube for tutorials and there weren't any, That's changed a lot over the past 4 years anyway. But, it was a very difficult thing to figure out. So I jumped to Unity, went to the Unity Discord and like asked questions and stuff like that. I met a coder at first who helped us out, and that fell through. And then Al, my current coder, he came in and was like a superhero and just fixed everything. And he was very firm on let's stick with Unity because he believes it's more coder friendly. I can't tell you if it's is or not, but it seems like it from an outsider perspective. And he built an entire toolkit for us because basically what I asked him was, I want to be able to like drag and drop it and click on things and make things happen, right? Like I want a little UI where I can click on an item and say this is interactable and it does dialogue. And he actually built that for us. So we have a custom toolkit within Unity that he is. I don't want to say for sure. I believe he's released a version of it, but he is rebuilding it, updating it for the current Unity, and adding all these new features and stuff. And he's working really hard on it. I think he's going to have it done pretty soon. And he'll be releasing that. It's called Fieldwork Toolkit. So any developers look up Altan and Fieldwork Toolkit, and he's a wizard. So it's helpful for people like me who are very visual, and I need to be able to see like instant results. And coding, I guess, can give you that if you know what you're doing, but I don't know what I'm doing. So
sounds like you had a pretty good team behind you.
Small but good, and we really want to grow. I definitely want to be able to do more and have more people who are very skilled at what like the specific things they do helping out. Like we need an animator. If one more person tells me they hate the run cycle, I'm probably just going to delete the run cycle and make May like moonwalk everywhere. Like,
do it.
Sorry.
I said, do it. That would be great.
I am not an animator, and I learned that the hard way. So, I've gotten better. The project that I'm working on right now, that animation is much better and took much less time. So
I have an animator I can introduce you to.
It's such a hard thing. So yeah, that's another recommendation I guess I can give anybody in the chat is that if you're interested in making a game, find your skill set. There's very few people who can do like the bright memory guy where he's just a monster and can make everything and do everything on his own apparently. Very few people like that, and those people tend to get successful because holy shit, they're really good at doing all these things, right? I'm good at art and writing, so I'll stick to those if I can afford it, And we'll see what happens after Switch launch because I'd really like to be able to hire a couple people and grow our studio out and have each individual piece work that much better,
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of people who'd be willing. I know there are people in the Discord who will probably watch this and go, you can hire me. I know we have a 3D modeler too I can introduce you to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anybody, we probably won't be looking into like actually hiring or contracting until I'm gonna guess April. In April, yeah. And if anybody wants to reach out now, I definitely want to know so I can keep those names on my mind and have a list of people to reach out to. We're definitely looking for more, including developers. At the toolkit that Al is working on is great, but it's always good to have someone else that we can also contact sometimes, so
just cheat on Al. He'll never know.
Anybody that's in that does something and they've got the snuff, we're not super picky, so as long as you're good and you don't scream at me about stuff, I'll be okay.
We can definitely help you find people. We have plenty in the fan base, which is good. One of the perks of the type of games that I review is you get a lot of people that do things more of the mature fashion, so they're always looking for work and stuff.
And especially because they won't be mad at me if I say make the boobs bigger, which is always a plus. I will disappoint people though. This is, and I do want to step out ahead of this. This won't be censoring. Our next protagonist she has smaller boobs. She's a leg girl, so we will be focusing on her legs being the sexy part. So I do want people to understand that we're taking a small single game break from extremely busty heroines, but we will be going back, and I might try to push the buttons a little bit more, or stretch the buttons, maybe pop the buttons.
You're trying to make sure everybody has something with one of the girls.
Yeah, but I won't be doing ass. We aren't going to have a big booty girl. I don't think. I think it's too much.
No, don't say that. You might start a war.
It doesn't match. I'm married to one, so before everybody gets mad, it doesn't match the Asian aesthetic.
Oh boy.
My wife is very my wife is very firm on the fact that she hates giant asses. So
I mean, I could make the joke of find me an Asian girl with giant tits, but
yeah. It's easier than you think in the countries. I will say that in the actual countries, it's surprisingly not as hard.
I know, I'm making fun of the whole stereotype and stuff.
Asses are impossible to find, but I'm gonna get more crap, aren't I?
I'm looking at the chat. A few people aren't very happy. So because we need the booty.
Well, I think May's got a pretty big one. She's curvy.
She's thick.
I wanted May to be more thick. That can be a fun last topic, because I do have to get going soon. But the fun fact, I did base May on multiple actual models, and I think that went around, that she was based on a real person. So, the idea of the visual difference between May and her sister was based off of Bunny Ayumi and Swimsuit Succubus.
Oh my gosh! Aurora said that too. I'm actually doing a game with one of them in it.
Really? Okay, so you're connected to them. So I have a friend, and because of the controversy, I don't want to rope this friend into things. She's dealt with enough, and she is mutual friends with them. And I kind of I knew about them, and I saw them on Twitter all the time because they were really popular when they were together, and I loved that kind of very different look of each of them, and I just had this idea. It was like, May's sister should be extremely different to her, because my original concept of May was that she was, because of her cybernetic eyes, she was autistic, like extremely autistic, like she couldn't talk to people, kind of thing. And I moved back from that, obviously, because my wife was like, that's gonna make her off-putting and not fun. And I was like, okay. So I made her more like a neat. She's likes to stay home. May going on the date at the beginning of the game is a huge deal for her and for the sister. So Maiko, I wanted to be the very outgoing, like fun girl, The visual difference, I was just like, well, I kind of like this picture that I had or I'd seen of Ayumi and Succubus, and it was like, oh, okay, that looks cool. And then I designed Swimsuit Succubus's Maiko after the idea of seeing that. So May was actually originally based on Jun Amaki, who is a gravure idol from Japan, and another gravure idol who I'm a big fan of, named Ramu, who has a YouTube channel, and she's really cool. And Ramu, and Jun Amaki is Junamaki. If anybody wants to see the inspiration for the body type, so she is based on, her proportions are based on real people, and I also kind of pulled some other gravure idols and stuff that I liked in there. To really make sure I got that kind of meatiness right. I know this sounds really weird and creepy to say, but yeah, I tried to get that meatiness right. And I wanted May to not be like a stick with big boobs. I wanted her to be kind of thick, and let Maiko be tall and thinner. And then our next girl is going to be more in line with with the Hong Kong. Well, my wife says it's the Hong Kong standard of beauty of Asian. Tall, skinny, leggy. That's the Asian standard of beauty, apparently. So the next girl will be that, and the next game does take place in Japan, and it's very short. It's, again, 20-minute game, but I want to set up the lore of what Japan is like right now, at that time period too. So that'll be an exciting thing for people, I hope.
I think it'll be really fun. I do like that you're doing a trilogy. And thanks for giving us the exclusive on that. I can't wait to play the other 2 games, especially the short one. That'll be fun for everyone to try to, watch and play. Now, is that one going to be like a free thing for everyone, or are you guys going to charge like a couple of dollars? Do you know yet?
Maybe, actually, that might be a good thing to ask people here. What would, because I'm not sure, we were talking about this in my Discord. I've brought it up a few times, so less people think that that we've decided to do this because of the controversy. I've been really pulling it over for a while. Thinking about opening a Patreon to kind of help us have, I guess, it's passive income, I think is the term, of consistent income every month, because game sales, we'll have a boom and then they're gonna wane, and we could go from a hefty, pretty nice paycheck one month to nothing the next, and because we need to hire people and build our studio out, that's going to make things a little difficult. So we thought Patreon might be a good idea, and we can do little games here and there that every couple months we put out a game that is small, so that while we're developing this larger game, that's not Sense, it's in the same universe, roughly at the same time. All of these smaller games are going to be that. They're in. I'll tell you what it's called. It's called Sense/S, Senses, and each one will be a new story within the Shirotech kind of timeline and universe, and may in some way connect back to the main Sense games. And then Sense 2 and 3 are far off projects because we need budget. We're going to need some cash for those and some teams. So I'll say that again. Fatal Frame 5 in scope for Sense 2, Sense 3 probably roughly the same, and we aren't looking to do crazy AAA, Cyberpunk 2077 level graphics or anything. We're just looking at definitely don't want to do Cyberpunk 2077 graphics, but we want to be good.
You mean you want a game that runs?
We want to have bar high for those, and these smaller games are going to be smaller things. So the first one I'm working on is just another 2D game, and game after that will be 3D and larger, but not super huge. So I forget where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
You want to know if you want to open up Patreon. So if you want my advice on this,
sure.
As long as you keep your patrons well informed, you give weekly updates. I can show you mine, and I'll show you how I do it with the comic and stuff. We're doing something similar where we're kind of building the world, but because the comic just got a full team, we've only had 2 people working on this comic. And it's basically, we've done little shorts every other month. We've done pictures that kind of, give characters attitudes and stuff like that, and more in the world. I think that would work, being able to do smaller games and doing it through a Patreon. I actually know quite a few indie devs now that are doing that, because it seems like it's more reliable and more trustworthy than a Kickstarter, because people can reach out better, at least in my opinion.
Because that's how I felt. I was a little nervous, because if the game that's coming hopefully later this year, we're kind of mulling over how long it's going to take now, because we actually started on it almost immediately after putting sets out. We were like, okay, let's get going, because I was really excited to let's make the next thing, and that's the bigger project. The smaller project, I realized when I can't help, we got to a point where I can't do anything for a bit on the bigger project because I don't know 3D. I was like, okay, I'll do a small project now. So I got to the point where it's like, well, do we want to do a Kickstarter for this next bigger project? And we felt bad about that because we just did one and we still haven't technically fulfilled the first one, So like, okay, let's wait on that. And the same thing for the Patreon. The more I was like, well, we haven't even sent the physicals out, and we can't do that until late spring, but that doesn't mean we're actually getting income, So it's it's been a very difficult thing to figure out,
That's the other good thing about a Patreon. With my Patreon, we offer physical rewards through Patreon. We do posters, t-shirts, tote bags, mugs, stickers, and Patreon actually fulfills that for us. We give them the picture and they fulfill it. So you can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's what we were thinking with this small game. Is it's either going to be $1 or $2, and it really depends on how long it is. Putting a game that's $1 or $2 on Steam is basically useless. Unless you hit Among Us levels of viral, gonna have a harder time with that $2, from what I understand. So we were like thinking about doing it as a Patreon reward, and that kind of limits the scope too, because then only the people playing the Patreon get it, and then eventually somebody's probably gonna,
Oh,
put it
you
out there
release
on a
it. You
torrent.
release what I see a lot of devs do is they'll release like the test versions, the early access, like the early versions before it goes on Steam and stuff. They release that to the patrons, and then after let's say a week or two, then they'll release it on Steam and places like that. I've seen that work out a lot. Like when we do artwork and stuff like that, we always release like the high res to the patrons and stuff like that, or the comic strips will give the high res to the patrons, and then we'll release one that's a lower res like a couple of days later to everybody else. So,
Well,
you can also ask your patrons what they'd like to see and things like that when they start coming in, and if you're lucky, most of them will give you an opinion.
Right. Well, we're getting pretty close to deciding what we're going to do. We're going to do it either this month or next month for sure, if we decide to do the Patreon. So we'll know, and we'll let you guys know, and be very excitedly announcing it. The first very small game I'm hoping to have ready in the next month, the next 30 days or so. So,
Well, if you're still on the fence, have you ever heard of the American McGee games?
Yeah.
The current one is actually the one that's in development. The prototype for it is being done through Patreon.
Really? Okay. So
because I've had American on my channel quite a few times, and I talked to him about doing it, and he ended up doing that. Yeah, he's a really awesome dude.
I got to talk to him very briefly, like about a year and a half ago. He's a very nice guy. So yeah, I guess we'll let you guys know. I think that's a good idea, and it's kind of hard to gauge how much the game should cost. Right now, especially for how early in development this very small game I am. Sometimes I'm like $5, fuck it, I want people to pay, and then sometimes I'm like, it should be free. No one should pay for that, So we'll see what happens.
$5 and then instantly put it on sale because you love them. This is the I love you sale.
If I was that shrewd of a businessman, I would not have made Sense $20 and then let it be released right before 6 Steam sales in a row. So
holy crap, dude.
Yeah, it was a decision, but hey, it worked. It worked out for us. It actually
did get its attention.
Good, so I'm very happy with it. I do see another question. Devil Kingston. May's date.
Oh, they're asking if it's the bartender.
Is she a lesbian or not? Is basically the question. So
I do like the bartender.
Yeah, the bartender. She is a character that I'm hoping to be able to more with a future thing. I haven't decided if it should be a game or a comic, but it's for a story that I actually completely wrote already. That takes place in what Texas becomes in 2077-ish, 2080, So May's date a guy or a girl? Originally, I considered multiple things for that and was like, well, it'd be kind of cool if she, if we just never knew. And I kind of stuck with that. I do have a headcanon for it, and I kind of know where it's going to go. Maiko, May's sister, is straight and will get married at some point. And that's going to be kind of an important story element. So May, I have a lean I'm going towards, but I haven't decided. Haven't fully decided because it wasn't really important to the story this time.
I thought in the game they said fella. They said fella, so they did say it was a guy in the game.
The bartender says it, and then May says something along the lines of who says it's a guy. But it's, in that instance, May is actually just kind of being sarcastic, to mess with the guy because he's talking too much, kind of thing. But I haven't actually decided. However, actual date itself that she was going on, you'll learn something about throughout the game that will change the dynamic of that. So technically, well, yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. So, yeah.
No spoilers.
So yeah, you have to play the game to find out about May's date. But as for her sexuality, are we allowed to say that still? Her sexuality?
Yeah, I don't care.
I haven't decided, but I kind of know. I'm fairly certain I know where it's gonna go.
Well, don't say it. It'll get you in more trouble.
Yeah, right. Like everything scares me now.
It's okay. We get the same thing with the main character for our comic. They're like, is Trinity gay or straight? Or I'm like, I think she just likes chasing ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Well, there we go. We'll let the fan artists.
The fan artists are going to do terrible things. You know that.
So we'll let people decide via fan art what they want her to be, and then I'm gonna guess based on the dev cycle for this one, hopefully in less, but in 10 years we'll probably all know what May is.
You could just make it a running joke constantly that everyone's just guessing the wrong thing or the right thing, and it just never fully comes, like, the date never shows up.
Well, that was kind of the part of the idea of the joke or the gag of it was because she's basically autistic. She didn't want to go on the date in the first place because she's just like, the way I imagined her eyes working is she sees data kind of like the Matrix, like the lines, like you could actually see edges of stuff, you know. I was kind of imagining it similar to that, and to her, it's like everything is just whatever she's kind of taking in at the moment. So she doesn't really worry about that kind of stuff. She doesn't like talking to people. She's very she's a neat. She just wants to stay home, play video games, and go on the internet, kind of thing. So I was like, she's not asexual in the actual like literal sense, but she just doesn't care. You know, she's not super interested in it. And that was kind of where I was going with that originally, and then there was some other ideas I had, and I just never really firmly sat down on it. Like it has to be this for her character, because I don't think her romantic inclinations will ever be a core point of her story. Maiko's the sister, yes. May, no.
Some characters just work like that. Like, they actually work out well when you write them like that, in my experience at least, where it's just like, romance isn't a big deal.
Because I couldn't think, like, I'm not a romance writer. Like, I think I could write one if I wanted, if I tried. I could put like a very 80s, you know, macho man saves pretty lady kind of romance. You know, something Kurt Russell would star in, which I love Kurt Russell. It's not a knock. I mean that like as highest form of flattery. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with it. And we'll see. I don't know. If it could come a thing, you know, where when I'm really writing in the details for the sequels, I'll be like, oh man, this is what it needs to be. But probably will keep her single.
I like that. Since dating sim spinoff, when you get to date all of the ghosts. Now, that's something more I would do.
Hey, I would not DMCA that as long as you contacted us and we made profit. So if somebody wants to do it, just get in contact.
Oh, that would you know what? I would play the heck out of that. That would be fun.
So May goes to like a host club to exercise the spirits, and she has to find the one she doesn't want to exercise because he's
it's
so dreamy.
all the ghosts from the game, and they're all dressed like sexy, but it just looks terrible.
Same exact ghost, but yeah, sexy versions.
Especially the one that crawls on the ground. I'm just picturing him like in a like the tube top and stuff with like his hand behind his head.
He's missing his bottom jaw. That would be messy.
I know, but it would just be so funny. He'd be like, So everyone's like, is he okay? No, he's normally like that. We just leave him alone.
That is a good quick one. He used to have when I was originally going to have him attack, he was going to attack with his tongue, and then I went, that's too gross even for me. So I cut that. So that's cut content, everybody. We cut out that ghost name is Tony, or not Tony. That's Kevin. Kevin, and Kevin's tongue got removed. So I apologize for that.
We called him Special Boy. He's trying so
Special?
hard.
Well, that also, he is kind of special. So. And I think he is the only visible ghost in the game that actually like has a sprite on screen won't hurt you. So he is very special.
Yeah,
Every
see,
other ghost
we kept
can-
wondering why he wasn't attacking, because I walked right past him thinking I was going to get attacked, and I didn't, so we just kind of, like, were messing with him. We're like, why isn't he doing it? Did we break it? Are you a special boy? You special? Come on, you can do it.
This goes to my weird game design sense sometimes, where I go, that would be neat, and because I with this game specifically, was kind of bouncing ideas off myself a lot. So I was like, oh man, that would be really cool if this one didn't do that. And some people got some things, but I am trying to figure out ways to communicate some of those ideas. Like do the same kind of take chances and risks on certain design elements, but find better ways to kind of telegraph that stuff, I guess.
Sounds like I think the Patreon would be a good idea, because you can kind of ask fans what they want and stuff, or you can just harass my Discord. They'll tell you exactly what they want.
And I will attempt heartily to be more active on Discords and stuff, guys. So even in ours, like I'm really bad at it. I get like I said before, I get super anxious and super nervous about talking. So I'm trying, and as part of our it is part of marketing and stuff, unfortunately, that I have to we have to talk to people. So it's been I'm gonna try, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to everybody more.
So what I'm hearing is we need to drag you onto more streams until you feel more comfortable.
Probably.
Hey, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Make you play Phasmophobia. Make you hunt the ghost yourself.
Oh, my wife and I did get that and played it with a couple of our friends, and I loved that game. That was really fun. It's to me, it's like stupid fun, but I was having a really good time with it.
Especially the voodoo doll.
Yeah, because Kay works, she does have a full-time job that she does outside of this during the day, and then she switches on to help with Dev at night. And if you ever want to bring us on, just give us a heads up, and we'll plan something out with you that might be fun.
All right, that sounds like a lot of fun, and you know what? It sounds like you could use a nice gaming night, and it seems like everyone really likes you anyway. So there you go. You made a bunch more fans.
Thank you. I hope everybody. I hope I was fun.
In fact, after we're done, I have to actually go buy your game for a artist who did the lovely image that's on screen right here.
That was me. that was not a trans woman or my wife. That was me. They made that. So. If it was it'd be fine. I would gladly have somebody on our team that would want to do that, but we can hire somebody. So
I'm so
don't
sorry.
cancel me again. I'm sorry.
Look, you won't get canceled. If you get canceled from my stream, I'm gonna get worse than you. Trust me, I've said worse things.
It's one of those, that's one of the reasons why I also am very quiet too, because I'm like, at any point, my Asperger's will go into overdrive, and I could just say something that would just be really bad or really dumb, and in the moment I'll be like, this is hilarious, and then 5 minutes later I'm like, oh shit. So
you're fine. I've gotten in trouble for calling an Asian.
Got in trouble for calling an Asian? Like, was it like a Pakistani or a Indian Asian, or
Singaporean Asian, but he calls himself Asian, so I call him that. And somebody after the stream had whispered to me, could you not call him Asian? It could be seen as offensive. And I'm like, but he was calling himself Asian. You didn't get mad when I said he was going to blow himself up.
Was it a white woman saying that? Because it sounds something like a white woman would say.
I have no idea what they were, but I was just like, dude, shut up. I don't care.
It's so weird. Like it is kind of interesting having an immigrant wife and from a country that has to actually worry about actual problems and things that matter. You see her just go, why are people upset about this? So it's extremely weird, and from me, like, it's connecting, because I didn't get off, like, completely just get off social media, but I depoliticked my Twitter feed. I don't go on Facebook anymore. I've just avoided all of it for about 18 months now, and I get things third hand, or I see the occasional YouTube video, which is actually what happened with our controversy. We didn't actually find out about it right away. Like, we were off. Like, I was off the computer that whole day, and we saw Yellow Flash's video pop up, and I don't even sub or watch Yellow Flash's videos. It just kind of showed up in like the recommended thing, probably because I do search our game's name a lot to like make sure any reviews, so I can take notes and try to figure out what people are saying. We see that pop up, and we're like, what the fuck? And then I noticed that my publisher had reached out, and he was like, yo, so we need to talk. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we do. So we kind of, that's how disconnected I am from a lot of stuff now. And it's really weird to watch people freak out about things when I'm going like, if only, what's the meme? If only you knew how bad it really was.
Yeah.
Like, if only you knew how bad things could get. It's interesting. It's, to say the least. It's a very strange world we're living in. And I'm very, very happy and proud to be in the country we're in at the moment. So
even with all the problems,
even with everything, I think people need to take a step back and take stock and really look around. Get off the internet. Stop thinking social media is your life and your world. Go outside, the grocery store, look around you. Put your mask on, whatever. That sucks. It's annoying, I know, but stop. Probably not as bad as the world seems through the blue tinted light, So I didn't mean to get philosophical, but
you're fine. You're fine.
I hope people take something away from that, because it's been I know we're all tense, and it's been a rough week for us personally, and I know a lot of people are always going through things, but trust me, it can get worse. And I can tell you from the week I've had, it can get worse, guys. And it can get a lot better. I can say that part of this stuff did make some things better for us too. So, we get to meet people like you, and we get to have a lot more feedback on our game and more eyes on it, and a level of success that we were not expecting, or, to be honest, I'm not gonna say hoping, because I definitely was hoping. Like, there was a point when we were developing this that I was like, we're gonna be millionaires in a year. And of course not. Like, probably about 6 months away from the thing, I was like, we're gonna be thousandaires in like 6 months.
We're gonna be $100 heirs.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna do well enough to help us pay the bills and be okay, and we'll figure out how we can get people on board for our next. Like, we were very okay with the way things were going, and we're very grateful to every single person that covered us, YouTubers. I gotta be honest, Yang Yeo's coverage was surprising, because I don't follow him or like watch his videos very often, but I know like he's centrist. Is he like centrist to like an annoying degree sometimes? That's what I see people saying, that they think he kind of like fence sits or whatever, and that's kind of the thing I got of it. He'll like defend things in weird ways sometimes, and that's why I just never really got into his videos. But then to see him, he's a big guy, and he didn't have to cover this. He could have just ignored it, and it was really cool to see. And he was also one of the few YouTubers that actually said that that Suzaku's the developer, which was shocking and nice. So it was very we're very grateful to everybody that covered us and gave us not just favorable coverage, fair coverage too. I watch Spawnwave every day when I'm making my wife's lunch, and seeing him even talk about it was really cool, because he was very even-handed as well. I was very happy, and we're very grateful to everybody. So thank you, everybody in the chat who's supporting us, and everybody who sees this later and decides to. Yeah, thank you all.
Well, when I saw what was going on, because I was getting pinged like crazy since I had done the review of the game, and it was more popular on the hub instead of YouTube, since YouTube's destroyed my channel. But I was seeing what people were saying, and I hadn't gotten really to talk to you. I'd really talked to Zombie, and Zombie's done nothing but sing your praises, and I'm like, none of what they're saying is true. Like, they were saying, I don't want to get into it too much, but like the things they were saying about you guys I knew wasn't true. So I was very, very vocal on Twitter, and I reached out to you because I wanted you to be able to come on, talk about the game, show that you're not the quote-unquote monster that they seem to act like just because of boobs, which I'm gonna spoil this for the entire world. Women have titties. We have them. They're big. They're nice. And they fit in a hand. Get over it.
My wife and the co-founder is listening. And
Hi, I'm so sorry.
Can I tell them the secret? So my wife is, again, Cantonese. She's Asian, and she's...
What secret are you talking about?
Oh, wait. Can I tell them that? Okay, never mind. I can't tell them that. she at first was like...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, she just okayed it. My wife is Asian, and she is rather well endowed, similarly to May. So she's not very overweight or something and has big boobs. She's just endowed. So we were very confused because people were basically saying my wife doesn't exist. And it's okay when people say my wife doesn't exist and they think I'm some kind of weird virgin. That's okay. But we were very shocked at what caused outrage. I've done reviews before where I've said things that I thought would be it. Having Count Dankula in the game, and I do want to it out there that I'm not gonna. He's not a personal enough friend where I can call him by his first name. But Dank is a very nice guy, extremely supportive. He's very nice, and
I got so excited when I saw the pug.
He reached out to us to my knowledge, because sometimes there is like a communication break when you're working with like several people all over the world. So to my knowledge, he reached out to us and saw our game somehow and tweeted it out and was like, this is what I'm into. Don't remember if he direct messaged us or we did him through our old Twitter. But somehow we got talking, and I was just so thankful that he would a guy with a huge platform. And I knew about him. I knew the controversy thing, but I wasn't like up on it, and I didn't get it. And when he covered us, I was just so thankful. So, putting him in the game, that was the only thing I could think to do to be like a thank you to him. And then I saw like more of the outrage about it, and I was not like, was never going to change my mind about that. I was like, the guy shouted us out, and he's been nothing but kind and cool to us. So of course he's just staying. That's set. And then over the time, like we talked a couple more times, and again, we're not like friends. I'd like to call him a friend. Maybe he does. I don't know. But we're not like close. So all the times we talked to him, he's just been nothing but great. Him and Sue both. They're such nice people, and that was kind of the thing for me too of changing my mind on any like controversy stuff, is to just not get involved in it, because the person you're talking to can be completely different than what you think they are in based on their online persona or whatever. So it was really cool to just talk to somebody who's like this big guy, and he has these great videos. And if you're not watching Mad Lads, you're missing out. They're hilarious.
Oh, I love them. I want to meet Dank. I want to get to talk to Dank eventually.
You should reach out. He's such a good dude. And
no, I'm shy.
Sue is such a sweetheart. So I hope to get to know them better and actually become friends someday. That'd be really cool. But they are great people. So always think about who you're arguing with on the internet, and realize that 90% of the miserable people on the internet have something that's making them miserable outside of it. And 70% of what's making them miserable is also probably the internet. So it's, that's one of the reasons why I think we really want to stay out of that kind of stuff, because it doesn't make anybody smile. And that goes down to, our core promise of a studio is like, we want to bring escapism back and just make fun games that, even if it's scary or has like a sad story or something, that you just walk away from it. People did in the 80s in the movie theater. You'd leave seeing whatever awesome movie you watched, and you'd be like, that was a great time. And then you go back to your life, right? We want to do that for like 10 hours at a time. So that's what we want to do.
Well, it seems like you guys are going to be able to do it, and I have faith in you guys doing it. And I'll be playing all your games.
Thank you.
But if you guys ever do get where you just need to call somebody and start screaming at the top of your lungs and stuff, you can always just grab me on Discord. Because I get it. Sometimes you need to let all that out.
I appreciate that, and it's good to know we have people in our corner that we can talk to. And my wife will appreciate not being the only person who has to tell me to stop yelling. So.
It's okay, I live with someone deaf, so yelling is pretty normal.
I didn't make that joke, you did. I'm just putting that.
Oh, I've said worse, trust me.
Hope so.
I've said worse in sign language.
My couple friends do shit on me quite regularly for similar things. So for my intrinsic properties, I guess you could call them. So
we're all little special needs. That's how I like to put it.
Mean humor is the best. It is my favorite. So it's the crueler and most unnecessarily cruel, the funnier I find it for some reason. Another reason why I don't talk much on Twitter, and
you're definitely gonna like you're definitely gonna like our Discord.
I've browsed a few times and gotten some chuckles. So I think we fit in. So.
Well, good.
Well, it is 9 o'clock, and the wife is she did want to be on, but she was a little busy today. She had some work stuff to do, so maybe next time we can all talk.
Of course, she's always welcome. You guys are always welcome to come back on if you want to talk about your game more, or just to come play games, or even talk about your next project, or even come and watch. Be on mic while we're failing at your game. You're welcome to.
It might be possible.
I get mocked by everybody, so you might as well join in. But seriously,
I hope to be able to do that soon. I think I'll talk to you more about it behind the scenes. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And thank you everybody in the chat for being cool. Sorry if I didn't answer any questions. If there were any you really were interested in and I missed, just send us a message on Twitter or in the chat. Just at us. I forget what our Discord name is. Isn't it Suzaku Games?
Yeah, Suzaku Games.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just add us, and I'll try to answer as fast as possible.
So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to let you get back to your lovely wife.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
Good night. Alright guys, with that, we're going to get ready for a cast. So the lovely art you see right here was done by Monochrome Fox, who you guys know, he's in the Discord, and I'm going to go grab you the finished version of our lovely Nerd Wonders picture of Sachi. Now, these are going to go into the Redbubble and the CrowdMade in a few days. I've got to actually do a couple stuff with CrowdMade, which, by the way, we can now do body pillows, so get hyped. But look at that. It's going to be up on the Patreon and all that. This looks amazing. Oh, I love it. And when Aurora comes back from his sabbatical, he'll be doing a picture, so you guys will get some very big boobs. Very big. But, it looks great. So yeah, get excited. We're going to be doing body pillows and stuff like that. Very great. Actually, I think it's, full body pillows, but I'm waiting for the response from CrowdMade on that, so give me a few days because they're a little backed up, but they're going to look into it too because it's something new they're offering. But I just want to announce that. So for now, I'm going to get going because I've got to get ready for the cast and I've got to start editing this for YouTube. So love you all. See you guys on the Discord. And if you're new, let me give you guys a link to the Discord so that you can join. Here you guys go. And I will see all of you later. Bye, guys.